I'm going to make a small watercolor painting after a painting by Gabriel Metsu. I have the source photograph on my phone and I'm using this brush, selected filament 3, and this one, which is a soft brush, number 14. It's a very cheap brush, but I will first draw the outlines of this. So first I take a pencil and I will sketch loosely the face of this lady. Oops. So I don't want these lines too thick because they shouldn't play too much a role in the watercolor. You can combine pencil and watercolor, but that's not what I'm after now. So I would suggest to just take the time to get this sketch right, so it's a basis on which you can work for your watercolor. Here is a hanger, so let's give her a hanger here. And now I have more or less the outline on the paper of her face. And first I want to start with green. And I mix it a little bit with brown because I don't want too bright green. So greenish, brownish. I think this is burnt sienna and this is, I don't know, looks like Viridian, but I don't know all the exact colors, so this looks a bit like Viridian in oil paints, so that's my reference point. I don't want too much water on my brush. I have some toilet paper so I can wipe away some of the paint from the brush. And now I just start with this. This is quite dark already. So what I can do is this, I can get a little bit of the paint away from the paper. Here I mix a little bit extra water. So as a sort of underpainting, because I want my watercolor to have natural colors in the end, but I start with green. And I like that there's some sort of contrast later on with more reddish brownish colors, but I like green as a starting point here. And if you are following these steps and it goes too fast for you, just put the video on hold, pause it for a while and just take it easy and take your time. And this is sort of jewelry, metal and stone, so it's nice to have the contrasts suggested here in this that you see here. And as you can see, even when I have applied the paint, the watercolor paint on the paper, you can dilute it with water and make it more transparent, even if it's already painted on the paper. And this is too dark in my view, so let's try to make it a little bit lighter. Dilute it with water again. And now it's quite heavily mixed with quite heavily diluted paint. I try to get a subtle tonal value here and there, here in the face. I need to mix extra paint Let's hope I get close to the original color that I used. It's a little bit brighter, a little bit more brown here. And now I want to accentuate certain features, certain places. And I like to have a little bit of atmosphere in the background, so I don't want the paper to be totally white, just a little bit of tonal value in the vein of what happens in her face. And again, I need to get some extra paint because I want this spot to be dark. But not too dark. It's a bit too much. I don't like this line here, so I try to break this a bit. Yeah. And here, I think this is hair. So I try to suggest that a little bit. And now I would like to start with more natural skin tones and etc. So I'm just using the same brush and I just start with burnt sienna and a little bit of red. try to get a natural appearance in the shadows here. I start with the shadow. And her hair. And I think it works beautifully on the green underpaintings in watercolor, so to speak. The first base layer in green. I try to get her hairs smooth, more or less, like it is in the painting. And what shall I do now? I would like to add a little bit of red. So this looks like a vermilion. And I dilute it with lots of water. And let's try to subtly add a little bit of vermilion, or whatever it is called, but it looks like vermilion on the watercolor painting that I'm making. I'm applying it very loosely, as you can see. And I need some more. That's too much. But I just let it go because it gets diluted by the paper, by the water on the paper anyway. It's a bit like glazing in oils, adding a layer of reddish paint here. It's a bit unnatural here to put too much red here, so let's not do that too much. And I also want a little bit of yellow ochre mixed with vermilion. Yeah. It was a little bit too much color, but I'm adding a little bit of reddish, brownish paint. There was a too heavy accentuation here, so I needed to dilute this on the paper with some water to make it less colorful, but now it needs something again. This has too little form now, so let's try this. And it's very subtle movement of the pencil or the brush, I mean, on the paper. And now I want to have accentuations in the eye and other areas, because I feel that it needs some darker areas. I'm mixing a little bit of blue and brown. Because I don't have any black on my palette. Now I'm looking at this example, and here is some shadow. It is darker than here, but it's not really a very big shadow, a very dark shadow, I mean. So I think I mix some brown with the green, and here I add another place. Here I can dilute a little bit more water with the paint. And let's see how this goes, because I want to make it a bit darker here and there. Because this is such a flat brush, I can use the side of the, you know, one can use it this way, then you get a broad stroke, but you can also use it very thinly on the side of the brush. So this is very versatile. You can anyway in two ways. And let me first do this sort of triangular form here. I need a bit more water. And what do I do here? It can use a little bit of tonal value, but I'm a bit careful here. So I try to make it a little bit darker in a subtle way. This is the shadow of the earring. I just saw it now, I just noticed it. So it becomes a little more brownish instead of greenish, although the green tone will still be visible, I think, in the end result. So one can start with brown as well, you know, but I wanted to start with green. I thought that it would be nice to try it. There are these ancient old icons which start with the green underpainting, and maybe I'll try another watercolor to start with a brownish color. But I actually like this. I like the combination of a green underpainting for this with the reddish tonal values or the reddish tones later on. This is a bit too much. I need to be careful. Dilute it a little bit more. Here I use the diluted version of that paint later on in the second go. Now I need some dark brown again, because I want to work on the hair, so I use burnt sienna and blue, and I mix that. And I work on her hair. And I think it would be nice to add a little bit of the background now. Just yellow ochre and yellow. And it's not very bright yellow, so a little bit of burnt sienna, maybe blue. And just add some here. I'm not really going to bother with the letters here, the M and the D, but in general I want to have something of that background, the yellow color, in my watercolor. And I mix it with a little bit of the brown that I used in her face before. Why not? It's there on the palette, so I can use it. When I think it's appropriate, I can just take it, you know. Some of that darker brown, maybe I can use it a little bit here, but not too much. And I think I'm going to take this other brush pencil and work on the details a bit. And what I'm doing now comes closer to drawing actually. But I need to get some details right. I use a little bit of pointillism. Ow. I hit my elbow against something. And now I will do this earring as well. It's a really nice detail. And I'm adding accentuations here. And I want to be careful not to lose the dreamy, poetic atmosphere of what is on the paper now. So I use this relatively broad brush. And now I'm using very refined brush, and those can result in two different worlds which can collide a bit. Because paint applied with a broad brush it looks different than when you use a smaller brush, of course, but it's good to remember that. Let's see if I can make this a little bit darker. It needs some more definition in her lower face, in this area. Now I'm losing some of the definition of the earring, but I needed some darker tonal values here, so in a moment I will try to get some of those accentuations back. And now I add accentuations, but it gets diluted with a wet paper because I just applied some paint. But I really like the effects anyways to have it mixed there. So it is after all watercolor, so it's okay to mix it a little bit on the paper as well. I want to add some reddish tonal values on her lips. So sometimes I just press my finger and I move it a little bit when I put some pressure on it, and I move it a little bit. Then it moves the paint a little bit, so it makes it more subtle. I try to at least. And I don't want to do much more on this one. I mean, I think it's a nice sketch, and it's a nice approach, I think, to first start with green and add reddish paint. I will try more approaches, but every time I get to the point that I want to stop, I see something which bothers me and I just want to put some more accentuations on the nose, because this ended there a bit too abruptly. And I think I'm doing something which I shouldn't do now. As you can see here, I'm trying to add some tonal values because the eye is a bit darker there, but I start to draw too much. So I don't do this very often, watercolor, but I'm not, so I tell you just what my own thoughts are when I'm doing something which I don't really like myself. But yeah. So now I try to get a little bit away with this. And I leave it at this. I think it's a nice sketch, and it's an interesting approach which I will explore later on as well. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.